It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great. Like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes. Let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is M-I-K-E, Mike.
Mike, this week we have some insight into Marvel's television operations. Which is not bad.
It's a big floating camera machine named Kevin, I thought.
Well, that's
in She-Hulk.
That's yeah. Well, they got rid of that. Remember, that's when they fixed Daredevil. They kicked that to the curb. Down the road. James Bond creative control goes to Amazon. Mike, I don't know if you're a Bond head or not. Is that what they're called, Bond heads?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't either. Did they call themselves the Double O's? We'll figure it out.
The Bondies.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. We'll just leave it alone. We'll come out. We'll get there pretty soon. Avatar announces a third animated series, and this is the last Airbender Avatar. You should probably put that in there. And more.
Yes, this is the top of the show where I feel like we usually reminisce about the week, but we got some energy behind us right now. I hopped on the mic with Chris, and he's just like, "Let's go!"
Yeah,
been out of town all weekend.
That's right.
I'm ready to rip and roar. My baby's in her second nap, which usually would be plenty long enough for us to record the podcast, but the second nap is the mystery nap. We never know which way it's going to go.
That's a roll of the die.
So I am on board with just launching.
Yeah.
This is going to be like Superhero Slate, the lightning round on high octane.
I will say the only thing extra this weekend I was at our listener to the show, Patrick's, who's done all the gaming conventions with me. We will be reviewing Donald Duck's Happy Campers, the board game, sometime this week. So those who are subscribed, you will get that out of a special bonus episode in your podcast feed.
Love it. I love it.
We'll be talking about that. So let's jump into the first topic here. I already mentioned it. It is James Bond, and James Bond has been a franchise. I was going to look this up. I didn't look it up. When do you think the first movie was around? When do you think the first movie came out?
I'm going to guess. I'm going to hedge on it's older than I think it is. I'm going to guess like 68.
68. It's actually going to go older than that. We're going to be 1962 with Dr. No.
Whoa. Okay, geez.
Yes.
I was in the right decade. I feel pretty good about myself.
Yes, Connery actually didn't even make it to 1968 as, well, I guess the one weird one. He came back in 71. So 5 of Sean Connery's James Bond movies were before 1968. So it's of that era, though. It's of 60s, right? It feels like it. So absolutely. The news this week, as we mentioned, that Amazon, who bought MGM as a subsidiary in like 2022, has gained full control over the 007 license from the Broccoli family. And this, my understanding, it's not a hostile takeover, but something else a little different along the way. And those who don't know, MGM has always done, I think, every James Bond movie since it is come out, and they have been very, very. I think it was Albert Broccoli is his name. His family inventor of broccoli. I'm kidding. Has had an iron fist over like the creative control of James Bond since it came out in 62, and that has gone on to his daughter Barbara Broccoli, and I think it's Michael G. Wilson is the other half of that, and he's like 82, 83 years old. Kind of thing in the meantime. So any James Bond movie has to go through them before it comes out. No matter who was making it, who was producing it. Again, obviously released with MGM. Amazon bought it, but they didn't get the creative rights to make just anything James Bond that they wanted. It has to, in movies or TV, it has to go through them. But Amazon, I presume, has signed over a big paycheck to this team to say, hey, we own this. We want to be creative control. Do you want some money? You're in your 70s. Let's talk.
Also, I got to imagine it's a little bit more than money, too. Obviously, there was money involved, but I want to be a fly on the wall when they were whining and dining this family, right? Because if they maintain creative control over this franchise for this long, there's definitely some pride behind it there. You know, this is like a family
heirloom
icon that they own. Yeah, heirloom. So there had to be persuasiveness employed, which I like because that's the part of Hollywood or just business in general that's fun. There's always that human element that you have to figure out how to navigate. It's not just who can ever write the biggest paycheck, because obviously Amazon can write any paycheck it needs to, right?
And I'm sure they've had offers over the past 80 years to do any, like, hey, we'll pay you a lot of money, probably like for 1990 standards to make a movie, and they probably even turned that down, right? So this is not the first time that they've probably been courted with lots of zeros after the comma.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny. I've seen a lot of hot takes once this news dropped that everyone's like, oh, they're going to do all of these superfluous spinoffs. This is about to be like franchised out the wazoo. And for me, you were asking me at the top of the show if I was a Bond head, a Bondy, if you will. No, not really. I had fun watching the movies as a kid. Pierce Brosnan was my Bond. He was my generation. You know, the Daniel Craig movies for me, they kind of take it or leave it. You know, I like Casino Royale, but I just don't follow this franchise. And to me, I don't care. Like, Bond has always reinvented itself, you know, over generations and decades. So, like, this is just another incarnation of Bond to me. Like, I don't take this as like, oh, this is a stranglehold and it's always going to be this way forever. It's kind of one of the nicer things about Bond. It's just like, oh, they're just going to experiment a little bit with the characters.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things. It's number one, I had not. My first James Bond movie I'd ever watched actually was Casino Royale in 2006. My only entry before that was the video game GoldenEye, which is pretty much the movie, but like with worse graphics along the way, right? So I did a trip down Bond memory lane a couple years ago. I think they were on Amazon. I think we were talking about on the show, going through them, and now I actually own all of the Connery and Roger Moore on Laserdiscs, so I can actually go back and watch those. So I will tell you right now, for anyone who is a James Bond fan knows, James Bond movies are a mixed bag. There are good ones and there are not good ones along the way, right? So as you mentioned,
there's campy ones, there's serious ones. You kind of have to reinvent this franchise in a way because it's such a staple, and like I don't want to say originator of like the spy genre, because I'm sure there's tons of niche spy movies that kind of kickstarted this. Bond just kind of brought it to the masses, and if you don't reinvent, you're kind of at the risk of being stale, because now everybody rips off Bond, takes it to 11. Like, just think of like Kingsman or that
Austin Powers,
Argyle, or the awful Argyle movie. There's so many people playing with the franchise and taking it for different perspectives. Like, Bond's in risk of coming out with like a new movie and going like, oh, that's it. It's the same formula they've been doing since 64, 62.
Yeah. Well, I will say, for Daniel Craig, of the 5 he did, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, No Time to Die. Casino Royale, good. Quantum of Solace, not so good. Skyfall, great. I think, you said Casino Royale, but Skyfall is the better of the two, I think, movies. Spectre, not good. And then No Time to Die, I actually really enjoyed last year. So, they are up and down, depending on kind of what's going on. But I think there's an opportunity here to I don't think Amazon's going to do a bunch of spin-off shows, right? They have properties that are good, but they could, because Amazon, they do stuff like The Boys and like Invincible, which is great, right? Like, on there they have really good stuff. They have stuff that's kind of middle, like Lord of the Rings, but they don't own Lord of the Rings. They are like borrowing what little bit of window they can do with those.
It's funny that you say The Boys and Invincible, two properties that they indeed have done spinoffs for,
right? Yeah,
already.
Exactly, and they have full kind of creative control. But those were like series. I think everyone's like, oh, they'll put it on streaming. I don't think Amazon is going to put Bond in streaming and leave money on the table, right? This is they are a business. They want money. James Bond is a theatrical experience. I 100% believe they will. If they make a James Bond movie, it's going to theaters with MGM.
Well,
right?
if you're a listener of this show, we've talked about this purchase, when it happened of MGM like a year or so ago. And we were both pretty much in agreement that, yeah, Bond will probably stay on the big screen, but we're definitely getting a Q series. We're getting a like a 00, probably get like a 006 or a 00,
well,
08 series or
well,
something.
009 is the joke 00, like Bond like steals his car and stuff in a couple movies, and like in the older ones, like he was like dressed as a clown and like got shot and killed. Obviously different ones, but like that they have the opportunity. They may do it, but I think they want to do a movie first. I think they'll do a movie first, right, before they kind of commit to anything else down that road. Q would be fun, but I don't see it. But like one of the things going forward is like, what if Mike? Here's my pitch on this, and I want to get your take. What if they didn't go forward in time? What if they went back and did a 60s period piece Bond film again? Like
that would be fun. And if you really wanted to kind of play with it and anchor everybody, they could do like kind of like an origin story of the creation of like the 00 division of MI5.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and to learn, like, again, you mentioned the other 00s are just as interesting as 007, and we don't know anything about them, so you could actually kind of build out the spy thing a little bit. I think an older spy stuff back when it was like cool to be a spy, like back then, like we mentioned, like original James Bond. The first 4 movies came out in 4 years. It was cool to be James Bond. Obviously, we don't want him, sleeping with all the random women and being a misogynist the whole time. But like, it would be cool to go back to the 60s era and have like 50s, 60s, whatever, and have a spy that was like cool to be a spy. And I was listening to someone else kind of talk about it earlier. Saw someone else mention like back in the 60s, it was cool to travel to places. Like right now, like if you watch like what's that John Krasinski spy thing, or even Tom Cruise, when they travel someplace new, it's not an event to be there, right? They're just there in a new city, in a new country. Back in the 60s, it was like, traveling was still an event. You didn't get to go to other countries very often. So
I hear what you're saying. James Bond has to go to the moon.
Yeah,
it's the last frontier left for him. Wait, no, he did go to the moon.
He
did. Yeah,
I was like, they've already done that. But like, also, but you bring up a good point. That brings up a good point that Bond is also of the times. Like, I don't want to see him competing with Mission Impossible, or you mentioned was Argyle in any other spy movie kind of going on to, like, we have a lot of spy movies going on. Is that Slow Horses? That's also like on Apple TV, right? Is a spy thing. Like, I don't think we need more modern spy noise. So if we could do back, that's my take on it. Mike, what's your take?
Also, like, spycraft is so much more fun back in the day. Now everything is just like AI, computer,
your phone unlocks
vision.
Everything. There's nothing.
Yeah,
there
it's just
anymore.
like, it's like just like the real world. All spycraft is just like happening like with like keyboards. So it's less entertaining to watch. So you do solve a big problem of taking things back in the day. So yeah. I would be excited to go in reverse. But yeah, they're totally gonna spin this off. They're gonna have series. You're gonna be opening up Amazon Prime in 2 years, and there's gonna be a flagship 00 series in the big banner up there, because The Boys is ending. Some of their other big series, they're not going to have Rings of Power forever, so they got to move on to the next thing.
Rings of Power, I think, is wrapping up this next season, because I think they're a good story point where they've told a lot of it. But I also wonder, maybe, do you think the Barbara and Michael, maybe they put a no series clause in there, because they do license Bond for comic books. And I don't know if you've actually seen any of those comic books. So they have like a Moneypenny comic book and like some others, like other ones too. So maybe, in a perfect world, they would have not licensed these for series. And they're like, yes, Amazon, you can do the movie, but we're not going to come up with the idea. You need to come up with the idea. Kind of going forward.
The first thing I thought of when you brought the news up, it made me think of the deal that they made with Lord of the Rings and the Tolkien estate. And then I just keep thinking about how there's these mythic theme park rights that are floating out in the world for Lord of the Rings. And I was like, I wonder if Amazon got rights for everything, because I think there'd be an awesome chance for, like, I don't know, Universal to pick up theme park rights for 007, carve out like a little, like, London kind of looking area of the park. You go on like a James Bond spy adventure ride where you're like in the it's an Aston Martin, right? If I remember,
Usually,
or is it a Porsche?
yeah.
I can't remember. But like that could be the ride vehicle. You know, you could do like a whole bunch of cool spycraft stuff with that. You know,
And
throw in like a fish and chips restaurant. You know, just because it's like London, you don't know what else to put there.
yeah, well, and then the other thing is the video games. The company that made Hitman video games is making the next James Bond video game as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if maybe they only gave them the movie rights for MGM, because MGM still makes theatrical stuff. We say Amazon. Most of this will still probably be through MGM, how they still put movies in theaters anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I really hope it is. I don't want them to oversaturate it, right? Like I know we had a James Bond drought between, literally, what was it, 20 or 15 years between Casino Royale, No Time to Die, across 5 movies, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it kind of is compared when they were doing one movie a year. But I really hope they don't oversaturate us with a connected James Bond universe, because you get about 4 good movies out of a Bond, maybe 5, and then you got to move on. I did see online some people were saying they want Henry Cavill as James Bond. I don't think he'd be a good one. I
don't think you have the longevity with Cavill anymore.
Yeah.
I think he's too expensive.
Yeah, he's got
every time.
Well, do you think he's got a working relationship with Amazon because of his like Warhammer stuff going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but he's already so deep into his career. He's probably commanding such big paychecks for every subsequent film now, and they're just kicking this off from the very beginning. So I think you kind of go for a little bit more of like a budget hire, somebody that's recognizable, but maybe not quite commanding the same dollars from Cavill,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's other opportunities to do it. I think you could go younger. Either I think you could probably get someone in their 20s. Like you mentioned the creation of the Double O's. We need a young Bond, right, to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an opportunity they could go down as well. But obviously he's got to be British, and he has to drink his martinis shaken, not stirred. Mike, I think those are the 2 things I know about him. Moving on to another, I guess, show adjacent property. We talk about it, but it's not really superhero stuff. But The Last of Us season 2 is coming to Max on April 13th. So they released a couple posters this week. I don't know if you saw them. They're just like the characters with their back turned to like walking away from it. So like they're not visually appealing, but yes, this is exciting.
I don't want to spoil anything since I've played the second game, but Chris, do you know the?
Yeah, I do.
Do you, without saying, know the big moment that happens?
I do. Okay. I'm very familiar with both storylines.
Okay, so without describing anything, do you want to take a guess? Do you think that moment happens in the first episode of the season, or do you think they find a creative way to make it happen
later
on in the season?
I think this show. So if they follow the games.
Now don't no
I know,
spoilers.
I know. If they follow the games, there's only 2 seasons. Right? They have said they're committed to making more seasons of this. Right? And obviously they'll probably do a Last of Us part 3 game. So in order for them to follow the story, Neil Druckmann has probably had to make some adjustments. That's not 1 for 1 in the games. And obviously the first season did the same thing, right? The first season doesn't follow the first game 1 for 1. So I believe they will make some changes, and it will not be like the video game right away.
I think you're probably right. I can't wait until the season's done and we can really dive into it and talk about the story. Yeah. But all right, I just wanted to get it out there. I wanted to see if we were in agreement, and we'll tune back in probably, what is it, April? So this is mid-April, maybe end of May.
Yeah.
Okay. When summer starts, come on back and we'll talk about it.
And it's funny. This is like one of those shows. My wife is like, "When's it coming back?" So like, I actually sent her the poster when it came out. I'm like, "Here's your release date for this show." So she's excited to watch season 2 as well. And this is not normally a show that she would be watching.
Love it.
Last bit of really superhero adjacent news, Mike. Avatar: The Seven Havens has been announced, and at the title, I was very confused until I saw the images. That this is a new Avatar: The Last Airbender set animated series announced for the Nickelodeon, so probably be on streaming, Paramount Plus or Nickelodeon TV. That is from the original series creators, and it will be set after The Legend of Korra, I believe that's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
So technically, Aang was Avatar 1, in order that we get to see. Aang's Avatar 1, Korra's Avatar 2, and this is a new Avatar that will be right after Korra. So correct me if I'm wrong, the Avatars have to die before the new ones are born, right?
Yeah, and they go in order of bending abilities.
Yeah.
So our next avatar will be an earthbender, which will be fun because usually the elements kind of follow along the lines of personality, or at least kind of have in the past. So, imagine any sort of personality that might go along with the lines of like hard earth or rock, and there's supposed to be some sort of twin element here as well. I think officially they might have even said a long lost
It is, yes.
twin. So we don't know if this twin also has abilities or not. I could see it maybe not having an ability, so there's a bit of contrast there of have and have not kind of.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, in Korra, they brought about different types of bending, right? In the original one, there was only 4, air, earth, water, and fire. But like in Korra, they're like, there's metal bending, which is kind of like a part of earth building, and blood bending. Like, they kind of got a little more liberal with how they could use the bending.
If somebody's like totally unfamiliar, there is a pretty big generational gap in between, like character age wise, between the first series and the second series, and just society has developed. There's a city called Republic City, so you kind of go from more of like a feudal world to like a world with like skyscrapers, and then all of the bending abilities have also advanced as well. Metal bending is really, really cool. They do a lot of cool stuff with chains in it. So I have only seen Legend of Korra once when it was airing. I haven't gone back and revisited it, so I'm missing out in my head on a lot of plot points. But there was an event that happened at the very end of it where they were trying to avoid this cataclysm, where if I can barely remember, but it's something about like the spirit world was coming into the real world and it was like going to overtake it or destroy it. I can't remember. So a lot of people are saying that this new series is going to kind of deal with the fallout of that event kind of happening but then being stopped. Yeah. But I think the biggest takeaway here is these are the original creators. This will be like the DNA of the Avatar series through and through. We don't have to worry about that original M. Night movie. If you're on the fence or, not really into the live action Netflix show, that's not going to come into play at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's some sort of distribution deal up there where, I'm sure Paramount Plus would love to have, a new Avatar series streaming on there, but I bet Netflix would probably pay them maybe more money than they would make in subscribers from this. So I think that relationship could still work for them later down the line. But I mean, this is always awesome news. I love the two creators of the show. They have such a ingenious way of telling stories, and I love the rich worlds that they make. So yeah. Everyone was super stoked for this announcement.
Well, I also think the interesting part is like all the stuff they've given us already. Like this one will be 2 books set across 13 episodes each, so they already know it's 26 episodes, Mike. Like they're just like, how long will it go? Will it get canceled? Or does it have to be successful? They already have a beginning and end set, so they're telling a complete story, which is rare these days, right? Normally, you're just like, hopefully, we get more content. And the other part they did say, and this is not a rumor for us, like the rumors in the universe, that this Avatar is not looked upon highly like Aang and Korra were. That this new earthbending Avatar, their presence will bring about the end of the world. So imagine being like a superpowered Avatar person in this universe, and everybody hates you because they think you're going to destroy the earth or whatever. So like it's a different story effect than, Aang and Korra's journeys, right? A different hero journey along the way.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
And I'm a big fan of the series in the world, but I don't really participate in a lot of the online communities. So I'm sure that there's strong fan theories or speculation, but I believe this is also supposed to come out after the animated feature that they're working on as well, which I don't know anything about. There might be official announcements on what that story is supposed to be, but that feature I believe is supposed to hit first. But I don't know if is that going to be like a streaming release only, or is that is that actually going to hit theaters proper? Is this supposed to be like in competition with other big animated features. I don't know, but it's just I love it.
Well, so it is so that it is a theatrical release for January 30th, 2026 in our old notes. So and that was also reconfirmed here in the announcement, because next year, or not next year, in 2 years, 2026 is the 20th anniversary of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So the movie will kick off in January, and the show will probably launch later that year as well.
Wow.
And I'm pretty sure the actual movie is Untitled Animated on Avatar. So maybe it's another story. I think it's a story set when he is the Avatar after the show, but before Korra, I think is what they said.
Maybe they're kind of adapting the comic book run that was after the series.
But either way, they are still, this again, Michael D. Martino, Brian Konietzko, that's it, right? The people who are there, the creators, they're involved in this. It's more content. If you're an Avatar fan, Mike, such as yourself, guess what? You're eating good right now. You're still eating good, whether you like the Netflix thing or not. You got content like nobody's business. We did review with my friend Patrick on the show the Avatar, the board game or the card game, the deck building card game a few months ago. So that is in our feed if you missed out on that, because that is a really fun card game as well. But yeah, maybe I can find some time, Mike, to finish my last Airbender run. I'm on book 3, and I just kind of paused, and I probably just need to finish it up, because if I'm gonna have to watch that and Korra before the new one comes out.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Yeah. I literally, so the other part of this is, on the flip side, unrelated to this, Mike, I'm the last episode of the new Dragon Ball series that the creator made before he passed away last year is next week. Mm-hmm. So I'm like animation adjacent fans are living pretty good right now in that world. All right, superhero movie, TV, new stuff. We are not going to be talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man on the show today. I haven't watched the last episodes because I've been out of town this week, Mike. I don't know if you're caught up with the whole show at this point.
No, I'm behind.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, well, we do plan on talking about it, but I don't think it's like, oh my god, we have to talk about it because like it's gonna affect the MCU. This show is very set off from the MCU, so whenever we both get there, we'll probably do it on the show. But they've already showed off the new artwork for Gwen Stacy, who will be part of season 2. So obviously season 2 is coming. They've got Gwen and her Spider Gwen, or Ghost Spider, whatever they're gonna call it, look for the show here as well.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, I love the art style of the show. I've been seeing some stills shared online. As I've said, I'm behind, so I don't know the context of any of this stuff. But yeah, people seem to really be responding to the show positively, which is good.
Which one?
It seems
we
to
all
be
win.
finding its audience. Yeah.
Yeah, we all went with good content. Spider-Man content. Story's great. Again, I think what I would I'm going to give it some kudos here, spoiler free. I think we talked about in the first episodes is like it doesn't have to live in the MCU, so it can use new characters and do weird stuff without saying here's a concept. Like they don't have to work around any MCU settings or rules, right? It's a different place. But it is kind of set there. I heard, I didn't get to watch it yet, but obviously Charlie Cox is a Daredevil in one of the later episodes. He's going to be Daredevil coming up soon. We'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, check out Gwen and Spider-Gwen kind of going on here. I will say one thing, Mike, in like one of the first comes here. And from episode 1, the spider that bites Peter crawls off. And boy, does this outfit look like that spider that crawled off. Like in terms of color palettes.
Okay.
So I wonder if that said her, rather than being a multiversal Gwen Stacy, right? We don't need more multiversal stuff right now. We just need it to be nice and contained along the way. Moving on, Spider-Man 4 delayed, Mike. Big news. People like to put this headline up this week. Spider-Man 4 delayed. It's just delayed a week to July 31st, 2026. Like, people made this sound like it was like a big deal. Not a huge deal. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which is filming soon this year, which also stars Tom Holland. It just gives them an extra week in between them. Like, there's really no big news here, right? Other than, Tom Holland is going to have a good year.
It's just an excuse to republish another article
Yeah.
with Spider-Man delayed, so you can just get some more clicks and you just copy paste the same article. Yeah, they could just go in and edit it, but why not duplicate it and then get some more CEO off it?
Yes, gotta get those, gotta get them clicks, get them ranks. But yes, Tom Holland will be in Avengers Doomsday. He'll be in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. He will be in Spider-Man 4. So for someone we haven't really seen him in a lot of things lately. He's got a good calendar year coming up on him. So good for him. Daredevil. We are coming up on Daredevil, Mike. Like, it's gonna be here before we know it on Disney Plus. And I keep seeing like little spots, like 30, 60-second spots, or like commercials or trailers, like when I'm scrolling through stuff. I'm avoiding them like the plague. I'm not watching them. I want to go in as blind as I can, right? Other than the big trailer. So very excited to do that. But Brad, this is news as of today. Marvel Television president Brad Winderbaum has said that season 2 will release in 2026. And I quote here that season 2 will come out next year, and then hopefully season 3 and season Infinity after that. So they are really adhering to that TV release schedule where you get to come back year after year with characters that you know and are familiar with along the way.
Yeah, it's so funny. If you're part of a younger generation, you might not be aware that TV shows used to run a very repeatable schedule where you could trust that at the same time next year you'd be able to get more of it. And now maybe it's not necessarily always a bad thing. I feel like when good shows come out after a year or two, it's usually because it's so expensive and it's taking so long to shoot and write it because they want to make sure it's so good. But yeah, it is kind of funny. Like, oh wow, we only have to wait a year. That's so special,
right? And if they get a season 3 or season 4, like they've got the plot points. Like this was actually where Marvel Television can show dividends in the movies, right? Like if they're already doing it year to year, they could be okay. Well, we know we're doing this next year, and season 3 has this little plot point that we were working on now. It can be in a movie in 2 years, right? Kind of down the road, so they can react and interact a little better with that. So that's awesome to hear that. Very excited about this, and more Daredevil is never, hopefully, not a bad thing. I don't have any worries about this show coming up, Mike. I don't have any bad feelings. So with that, so March 4th, 2025, we are less than week and a half away from revisiting Daredevil on Disney Plus. On the flip side, Deadline has reported that Marvel is no longer moving forward with 3 different series at Marvel Television. So the first one is probably the biggest one, and that's the Nova show, which Kevin Feige and Brad Winderbaum have talked about in interviews publicly for the past year or so, maybe more. The idea is here that's probably going to be a movie or an event film later on because it's probably pricey and not likely to have multiple seasons like a television show. As we just mentioned, Brad Winderbaum says we want to do yearly releases. They're not going to do event series anymore, kind of like they might do stuff, but like WandaVision, Secret Invasion, Falcon Winter Soldier, they're not doing event series anymore. They want to return to regular television style shows. And Nova is would you say, not an accessory, what's the other word? Not a consequence, but like a victim of that change behind the scenes. I don't think this is bad. If they can get this into a movie, Mike, or an event where the Nova Corps and Annihilus are there, I think that's way better than an expensive TV show that they would do on Disney Plus.
Yeah, also, like, streaming is just such a weird business right now. Like, it seems Netflix is the only standalone streamer that kind of knows how to make a return on their investment, whereas 2 of the competition out there, Amazon Prime and Apple, don't even have to worry about subscribers. They just need to sell more Prime subscriptions for shipping, free 2-day shipping, or to sell more iPhones. And then the Paramounts and the Peacocks are like, they don't even know what they're doing. So Disney Plus is kind of in this weird zone where they have like the best IP and they're struggling to figure out how do we really make a return on this?
Yeah.
So that's probably why there's so much like, what do we do? What gets to be a series? What gets to give us box office dollars? What are we doing here?
Well,
I'm not surprised it's so volatile.
Yeah. Well, I would also say, the last 2 quarters, Disney said they've turned a profit on Disney Plus, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything needs to be greenlit there. Like, to me, I'm going to use this as an example because this is the bottom of the barrel for Marvel, Mike, that has ever happened in my book. Secret Invasion, right? The worst show, the worst thing that ever come out of this. Imagine if that had been a phase-long event in the movies instead, like where you find like some of the heroes have been Skrulls, over time rather than across 5 very rushed episodes, with things that have no play. If they're trying to do the Nova Corps and Annihilus, they put them in a show that nobody possibly watched or is awful looking, that never comes to light. All this event television just needs to kind of go away. It's not worked. It's not been successful. We've had a couple good shows, WandaVision, Agatha All Along, Loki, but like, I don't have full faith that Ironheart, despite being on the burner for several extra years, is going to be something that knocks our socks off, right? It's one of those that's been kind of there. So this is a smart idea to hopefully turn it into a movie or event later on. The rumor was that they were also looking at Henry Cavill to play Annihilus, and I don't believe this. Henry Cavill has been cast as everything this week.
How many times is he going to come up in this show?
Yeah. I've got one more later. Don't worry.
Oh my God.
Remember, he was Superman. But like, this is a smart idea, right? I think this is a smart idea. Another show that was announced to be canned or /axed before it was even, even out there is Strange Academy. We've talked about it recently, whether it was going to be a show or an animated. So it sounds like they're no longer moving forward with the series at Marvel Television. As I just said, Marvel's not focusing on event series. Strange Academy would not have been a recurring show, Mike, right? Like, I guess they could have figured out a way, but it sounds like they want to focus on cheaper shows that they can run year over year. Strange Academy would be an expensive show with all the effects and probably not something that they can just keep doing all the time.
Yeah. Like, also, I'm not saying the events of a Strange Academy series or even a movie couldn't be interesting. I'm always of the belief that a talented writer can make anything interesting. Even the most menial day-to-day task can be thrilling if you know how to write. But also, I could see really any event happening in Strange Academy just kind of glossed over in the opening act of the next Doctor Strange movie, of just like, oh yeah, here's some of our people again. Yeah, they know how to use magic now. Yeah, they've been working. Yeah, they've been going to class.
Oh, how do they know magic? Wong, did you teach them? Yes. Good. We're caught up to speed. Let's go. So yeah, I agree. I don't think it's anything against the quality of the content, but if Marvel Television is truly trying to stand on its own legs and do television stuff, this is not going to this was not a show that was going to make that cut either. So I'm not surprised, but I can possibly see them incorporating some of these elements maybe in the next Doctor Strange, maybe to something else down the road, right? Or an animated film. This does not put them off the table to be that animated movie that we talked about either, right? Just because it's not at television doesn't mean it couldn't be a movie. So there's still an opportunity down the road with that. The last one, no scoopers have ever mentioned this title before, Mike, and I'm going to tell you right now. So that tells me that a lot of them are just shooting in the fucking dark when it comes to rumors. Is that the show Terror Inc., Terror Incorporated, is no longer moving forward at Marvel Television per deadline. Did you know who Terror is? And
no, I was looking at these show notes the other day, and I was like, did I not pay attention in one of the episodes a couple months ago? I do not remember this at all.
Yes, Terror Inc. was a comic series from the mid-'90s when like zombie things were a thing, and he's an anti-hero who essentially grafts body parts onto himself. He looks kind of zombified when you look him up, to gain their abilities and memories. He was also rumored to be part of the upcoming Midnight Suns if he got his own show, but like this is such a weird character and such a weird thing to hear they were even working on. If I'm going to be completely honest, Mike, this doesn't fit anything in Marvel at this time.
Well, kind of the weird thing about it when you describe the power set, the most I guess related thing I could think about out there right now is Amelia Clark in Secret Invasion, where obviously she's not grafting body parts on her, but she visibly shows different powers, you know.
Yeah.
Like transforming the limbs of her body, so it kind of almost just seems like, oh, why would you do
like
that?
a scroll, yeah.
Set twice, you know, yeah.
Exactly, and honestly, to your point, Mike, in the MCU proper, yes, there are things that are kind of going on behind the scenes, but this character doesn't fit into the Marvel universe at this time.
Yeah, this is like a Creature Commandos like character.
Yeah,
you know?
like maybe possibly like Agatha adjacent or Blade adjacent if Blade was far along, but like I can't tell you anybody who's like, God, we really need a Terror Incorporated TV show or
honestly,
mini event.
At this point in time, since we pretty much have the rest of the Marvel phases planned out until we reach some sort of theoretical, heavily rumor and implied reset of the Marvel universe, right, where mutants kind of will be taking over after Secret Wars. That kind of seems like the best time to do this kind of dark side of the Marvel universe, right? And like I just keep waiting for some sort of big event to really reshape the way the world works, right? You know, you watch Spider-Man Far From Home, and the blip kind of treated a little bit like a joke, but also there's some funny ramifications of, oh, what's it like being a teenager when all of a sudden your younger brother is the same age as you or something like that. But I kind of want to see, like, how does the world change, you know, rather than like, oh, I'm extra anxious now because at any point half the world could disappear. Like, it would be kind of cool to be like, oh, guess what, there's like monsters now. We need like people out there on the street just looking out for demons, the dude walking around grafting limbs to each other.
Well, they have the opportunity when it comes back together, and obviously the theory is a Doomsday Secret Wars pulls in from Secret Wars, the comic books, and it's like, oh, it's a battle royal. They come back and like we have a prime universe and everything's kind of mixed and match here. Like, how do you, like, will they make all the people have the memories of their previous lives and they're trying to get along in this new world where, like, oh, if it's, you know, we've pulled together all we could to create this new prime universe. We had to borrow from the dark dimensions. We had to borrow from the mutant dimensions. We had to borrow everything to build the purpose. So do they have memories, Mike? Or is it like is it kind of like a soft reboot where it's like, okay, well, we pulled some things in. We don't know what exists out there. It's going to be a wild west of a little bit as they kind of set the new rules in their own movies along the way. There's opportunity. I'm excited for it. I honestly, I'm excited to get that soft reboot where they don't have to play by 20-year-old rules anymore, right? Like 2008 rules set. We can go forward and it's not there. We're not dealing with that along the way. But anyway, go look up Terror Inc. if you're interested in seeing who this character Terror is along the way. Shifting over to the DC side for the rest of the show here, Clayface, the movie, has enlisted director James Watkins, who has directed the recently American version of Speak No Evil, to direct the movie. So Speak No Evil is the one where James McAvoy is like, come hang out with my normal family. Oh, my kitty can't talk? Don't worry about it. We're normal people in Europe. And it's a remake of I think maybe a European film or like maybe an Italian film. So very, very similar, but you know, that's great. The other thing is, like, it's going to feature Clayface will be a B-list actor who injects himself with some sort of substance, like the movie The Substance, to you know, keep his youth, and he's gonna find he's gonna be walking around and like he can like literally mold his face into, like, you know, his face will be a clay. He can do stuff like that. Is the rumor? I'm excited about this movie, Mike. This is like a big swing for DC in their current iteration of films, right? Like, it's not Superman, it's not Supergirl, it's not Batman. This sounds pretty fun along the way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to what does a feature live action adaptation of this character look like. You know, I think a lot of our listeners out there, you know, their touch point with a lot of DC is the animated universe. But I could be wrong. The world's starting to change. People are starting to, get their
Be younger?
content from other locations. Yeah. Well, actually, I was gonna say I doubt the younger generation is reading more comic books, so I wonder what their kind of touch base is with Clayface. Actually, now that I say it, it's probably. My guess would be like a Fortnite skin or whatever. I saw something the other day. It was a Fortnite skin of Godzilla who was doing some sort of emote dance, and then if you rotated him, he had a skibbity toilet backpack.
And he had Nike. His Nikes on too.
Yeah, it's just like you show this to somebody even just like a decade ago, and it's like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
So, but either way,
Yeah.
Clayface live action, it'll be fun.
I think the one thing they have to get right is obviously the CG for this, right? Like they have to be able to do the transformation thing effectively and make it look real. I'm going to use my example. We watched Craven, right? And you saw the end whenever like his brother becomes chameleon and he like just kind of blips into another person. Like, I don't want to just blip into another person. That's not fun. If he's Clayface, it needs to be gooey and weird, and he needs to be able to kind of do it like manually, right, along the way. It shouldn't just be like, oh, he'd been out of frame and he popped up and now he's another person. Like, that's boring. Give us some real good stuff where like he starts to like morph and transform and it's kind of grotesque along the way. Like kind of like, I was reading, I saw this article online. When was the last time the Hulk transformed on screen, Mike, other than the Red Hulk? Like you actually got to see the transformation.
That's a good point.
Is it like the first Avengers? Because number one, it's expensive to do that effect, right? But like at the same time, it's more believable if he just does it off screen or like, he shows up as the Hulk along the way. So like I really hope they give them the funds and are smart enough to make this look real for Clayface. Moving on to another James Bond property. I mean, James Bond actor did that on purpose. Sergeant Rock, the upcoming DC movie that is out of left field, another out of left field one, has reportedly lost Daniel Craig as the title character. Remember, he was rumored to play Sergeant Rock, part of the
I remember
part of that company that GI Robot's a part of. So GI Robot could be in Sergeant Rock. He was a fun part of Creature Commandos. I liked him. And the upcoming replacement, there's rumored to be Jeremy Allen White, actor from The Bear. The league. Is he the bear in The Bear?
Yeah, he's the titular head chef, the titular bear.
Okay.
Now, I was thinking about this because I was, like I said, I was doing my homework and reading through the show notes before we recorded. And this is kind of along the lines of what I was thinking with that James Bond casting at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. Like Jeremy Allen White, he's, and I believe he's an Emmy Award. He's definitely Emmy nominated. I don't quite remember if he
Shameless,
won
wasn't it?
No, I don't know. Maybe, definitely for The Bear. I don't know about him personally, but in the show is definitely not.
Well, no, he was in the show Shameless. I think that might be where
yes,
he won.
He was. He was indeed in the show Shameless. But this is kind of like the type of hire that you want to make. Like Daniel Craig, he's expensive, right?
Yeah.
He's gone through an entire Bond franchise. He's moved on the projects that he thinks are just like fun, like where he can, like, wasn't he? Didn't he do like a nominated movie just recently where he was like a unique type of character? He was playing like off type or something for him. And he also did like the Benoit Blanc, where he got to do like a crazy like Cajun accent. So I just. Him going like back to the well of like franchise, I guess if he wants to buy a couple more houses, it's not going to stop him.
He wanted out of Bond before I think Spectre even. Like he said, he's like he didn't really want to go back until they were like, hey, we got a movie for you at the end there. Like I only remember him really early on before James Bond. He was in the first Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie. But other than that, after he got after he became James Bond, he became popular. Was it Logan Lucky? Is that maybe the movie you were thinking of where he was?
Yeah, I remember he did do that.
Cowboys and Aliens with Harrison Ford, obviously.
But like Jeremy Allen White is like the perfect type of hire where he's on the way up. He did I think Iron Claw. He was like one of those wrestling brothers in that, so he's technically made his way to like features. He's very iconic and well known.
He did win the Emmy, by the way. I did look it up earlier.
Okay, gotcha.
He did win that. Yeah.
So he's going to be rapping on that. So that's the perfect type of hire that you would do in like a James Bond-esque scenario where you got a name that's hot right now, looking to make his next big project. So that being said, I don't want to watch a Sergeant Rock movie. I don't care about this character.
This is a weird.
Like, these are the strategic hires, that we talk about.
Right. Yeah. I think I don't like World War II movies, Mike. I think we're at the era where we can get over World War II movies. But if they're going back to the well here for Sergeant Rock, we've looked him up. If they use his current iteration that we know of, he's just a normal, boring man who's in the army. He's a good shot with a gun. So the people around him he needs to be charismatic and he needs to have cool people around him. But like Daniel Craig, I think would be a little too old for Sergeant Rock, right? Like I think he's just like, if you're gonna do this character who's like a in the middle of the war, they probably don't send like grizzled people into in there already. Like you need to have someone who's a little more young and up and coming, kind of like how Chris Evans was in the first Captain America, right? Like kind of like that. Like after he kind of got his power, he was like doing the show tune stuff and kind of fit in a little better. But like, I agree, it needs to be younger, someone up and coming. But like, boy, do I agree with you and say the Sergeant Rock it's a horrible name. It's a horrible name for a character. You get a better name for the movie, I guess. Maybe.
Or if I had to convince myself, what does the world need now more than ever is more scenes akin to Inglourious Bastards, where we are just lighting up Nazis. I think we should be pushing forward any movie or property right now where we get to see Nazis get what they deserve. Yeah. So I will let it slide. If it's going to be like that scene in Creature Commandos where G.I. Robot just blows away a room of Nazis, but we get to see that on a feature film budget, I'll bring it on. I'm okay with that. Make that the first trailer, like unapologetically swastika flag just drenched in blood, and it'd be in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way.
It'd be way cooler if like Sergeant Rock ended up like he was really like the dad of Rick Flag Sr. or like the granddad of Rick Flag Sr. and like it's been like generational.
Connect it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that's not what it does in the comic books, but I think that would make it way more interesting than just like, he's just a dude in the military, and occasionally has a robot with him. So I don't know. Either way, Sergeant Rock. No more Daniel Craig. He's on to more Benoit Blanc things. Last bit of news here, Mike, and this is going to shake some cages. DCU had a private press event this week, and there's rumored major news coming. There's been no rumors directly coming out of this, but I'm going to say, that along with the Clayface director announcements, they've probably got some press stuff coming, or at least over the next several months to kind of get ready for this big hidden press event, Mike.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think what it would be. I mean, Gunn and Safran have been so upfront that they are not really going to start hyping things, for lack of a better term, unless they know it's going to be a real project.
Yeah.
And this whole, cloak and dagger major news coming kind of feels more like a Marvel move, right? We don't really have any big conventions coming up at the top of the year, as far as I know. It's usually
and they do
starts off in summer.
They would. I think this is something where they would do their own. Like, remember how when they did the Gods and Monsters, it wasn't at a convention; they just did a video for it.
The fan dome. Are they bringing back the fan
God,
dome?
I hope not.
They dusting off the dome. Are they retracting the ceiling in the fan
It's the
dome?
green screen, Mike. There was no dome. I hate to break it to you. I know you've been holding on to that for a while.
I'm just kind of curious. What did they? I mean, they've kind of already announced some of the bigger projects or say that they're on their way. What could be so major that hasn't already kind of been teased out there in the world?
I would say maybe three things. Maybe the first script for The Authority is done. Maybe they'll say whether it's going to be animated or not. We had those rumors a couple weeks ago about The Authority being animated. Waller, we have rumors it's starting to film later this year. Maybe they actually have the Amanda Waller people lined up. Maybe some announcements from that. And then the last one is tied into this next photo, Mike. The photo of James Gunn with Zack Snyder that James Gunn shared online. They were together. I actually had this linked in here, and it's Gunn now, but James Gunn, Zack Snyder in a photo together, bringing the two previous DCU or DC, I guess, visionaries together, if you will, kind of along the way. So there's a couple things I want to flag on this. Number one, it probably doesn't mean anything, Mike. I don't think Zack Snyder maybe was at this press event or it was anything work related. They're friends outside of DC. James Gunn wrote Dawn of the Dead, which Snyder directed back in 2004. So like, it's not like, oh, they're hanging out. And this could be to appease Snyderverse fanatics. Like, you know, maybe James Gunn's like, hey, Zach, can you come in and like give a green light or thumbs up on Superman? Here's a private screening of Superman. Can you give a thumbs up and say, hey, I trust James Gunn's Superman. I saw it, kind of thing. Or people have like thought maybe they're going to give him an Injustice movie or something. Like maybe they give Zack Snyder a DC movie that he doesn't write, but just directs. That's supposed to be very visual. What do you think?
I think the easiest answer is probably what it is. You're right. They just know each other. They took pictures. I could even see them making fun tongue-in-cheek jokes to themselves after they take the picture of just like, oh, fan base, the internet's really going to go crazy when I post this one. They're like, haha, yeah. You keep him as far away from it as possible, right? I mean, you don't want to gum up the works of this new franchise that you're given. I mean, I would love to see Snyder direct something in the future that he hasn't written. Yep. I think that's a fun idea, but literally anything else, I'd be happy for.
I have a really like sneaking suspicion that it was a private screening of Superman, and it was just to get him to say, I saw it and I think it's good, like just to help
that. I think that's a good strategy. They kind of did that with the Flash as well. We know that's a thing that they do, at least over at Warner Brothers. You know, a thing that their studio likes to drum up, and it worked. You know, the Flash was. You know, we didn't shit all over it like everyone else did, but I would say the hype train out of their early screenings, you know, definitely
helped
sped up the gears and the wheels on the tracks of that train. But I just keep thinking, if there is like major news coming from some sort of event, I got to imagine another Superman trailer comes out of that.
Yeah.
To get everyone hyped.
Yeah. Maybe first footage of Supergirl, you were going to say? Maybe? Or photo?
Maybe like a logo reveal of like the Lantern thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's happening.
Maybe them in some like concept art of that.
Yeah, something like that. They should not do this, but I wouldn't say it's out of possibility that maybe they tease like a large villain that they're building to.
I don't think they don't even know. Well, if Superman doesn't like blow away box office and just kind of comes out kind of okay, it's still not going to spell a great word. Like they're not going to make enough money to keep this going for a long villain, I guess, at the end of the day, right? And I don't think they're ready to announce Gods and Monsters Part 2. Like they haven't even got they have 2 movies in production, 3 coming soon.
Maybe
actors
for
Clayface. That's going to be my other one. I want to throw that in there.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I think that's safe. Maybe I don't know if they've announced Penguin season 2, but maybe there could be like a Penguin season 2 announcement since critics loved it. My dark horse guess, which, you know, I put $5 down on it, not my whole life savings, is some sort of official announcement that Matt Reeves' Batman is either going to expand in universe or going to connect to the current universe being created. Like maybe they finally made a decision on what they're going to do with that franchise. That's my dark horse guess. So we'll come back to that to see.
Yeah. I'll hold on to that theoretical $5, I guess, if you will. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Other than that, I mean, DC, I'm excited for them to announce some stuff. Again, like I said, they won't announce it until it's ready, but like this is way better than James Gunn just being on, threads all the time, responding to things. So,
well, at least he's not. Is Zack Snyder still using his weird social media
Vero?
platform?
I don't think he even has a photo of this. I don't think he shared his photo on Vero of the same thing. So, looks like it's just on there for now. But Yeah, maybe some DCU stuff would be nice along the way. Mike, I said, we want to keep it nice and tight here. Use this energy effectively. I need to, go probably dinner. It's like 6:30 here. But people want to know what you're doing, what you're up to. Where can they find you at, my friend?
Yeah, they could read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or video game systems of the same name. If people want to know more about the show, what we're doing, weekly episodes, check out our Captain America review. Where can they get all them goodies at?
Yes, all you have to do is head on over to superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all of the fun tidbits that our show has. Upcoming release calendars, show notes, links to anywhere else you can subscribe. Head on over to there. We got merch, superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. If I had to make one request for Chris and I, if somebody is selling one of those ridiculous 13-inch CRT TVs that we talk about on the show all the time, the Spider-Man one, the Superman one, the Batman one, the Winnie the Pooh one, any of those, the Shrek one, which is crazy rare, it seems. If anybody lives within driving distance of Louisville or Los Angeles, we may be willing to buy this television from you. So that's my ask out there in the world right now. Chris, we did it.
We did it. We made the show.
We knocked it out of the park.
That's right. We're here. We got the show done, and I guess we will be catching everybody next week.
See ya.